All right, good evening, class. Welcome to our class for the week. It's my pleasure that to let the class know that shall be running. We shall be ending this class by next week. Today will be the last topic for week 7, which is on influence of man on the environment. So happy that we're running it up. Although it's fact is that most of the students have not been able to join this class. So some of the recorded video are already on the YouTube page. You can click for the weekly class. So as a recap of what we have been doing, started with the study of the environment or the ecosystem, lesson 1. And we also look at the cycling of nutrient in the ecosystem. How these cyclings are where they're found, which of them are natural, their reservoir, and the rest. We also went over to talk about interaction and succession in the ecosystem. The 4th week or the 4th topic was on population dynamic. And the 5th was on biological community, the aquatic community. Aquatic and terrestrial community. Last week, we couldn't have a live class, but I have a recorded video of the apenes and the aquatic biomass. So for today, it will be influence of man on the environment. As usual, since I don't have any student joining with the class, I want to do live, I want to share the screen so that I record and upload this for the students to watch later on. So what I'll be doing now is to screenshot or screen share what I have. All right, so we start, normally we start with right. As a continuation of the introductory video, looking at man, the environment, the influence of man in the environment. My name still remains Personally Make Paycheck. You can get me at imesenewo@gmail.com. All right. With the increasing human population on Earth, we have seen that this population have caused considerably influence of the environment. And this has affected the biotic factors and both the biotic factor too. And as a result of increase in human population, this has affected consumption of food, water, energy, and whatever you can think of. These have negatively produced enormous amount of wastes, which has polluted our environment. So what is pollution? The question we want to ask. What is pollution? Pollution is a direct or indirect release of products that are harmful organisms into the environment. It's a direct result of human activity. The direct or indirect release of products, harmful organisms into the environment as a direct result of human activity. And they occur in many ways. You can see could be chemical pollution, industrial pollution, reduction of acid rates, the ozone layer, carbon dioxide, and global warming. Those are the different effects these chemicals. So we'll be looking one after the other, chemical pollution. To cope with an increasing human population, widespread agriculture carried out increasingly by modern methods. Yes, and this has caused large amounts of chemicals that have been introduced into the environment. Now, these chemicals, we are quite familiar with them, especially for those of us who are into farming. We have the pesticides, we have the herbicides, so on, and even the fertilizers. Yeah, and a good example is the chlorinated hydrocarbon. It's a class of compound that include the DDT. I think in Nigeria, there is a ban as to the use of DDT. And these chemicals are not biodegradable. They can persist in the soil and accumulate over time, which can cause so much problem. So, although these chemicals have been banned, as I said, but secretly people make use of them. And sometimes accidental release of toxic materials into the stream and river by chemical substances cause a lot of water pollution. The cases of these, like the river Rhine in Europe, was highly polluted in 1983. When water used by firemen to put out fire in the chemical company in Switzerland washed about 30 tons of mercury and pesticide into it. See? So, and these, as far as these water channels are concerned, they could flow to tributaries and affect aquatic organisms. Could destroy aquatic biotas and cause so much havoc to the extent that they become unusable. Yes. We'll talk about industrial pollution. We are not far from it. So many chemicals, factories chemicals, production chemicals release pollutants to the environment, either to the soil or to water bodies that are close by. These have been quite devastating. I will talk about production of acid rain. Yes. When the factories burn coals as well, smokes of all the smokes gets into the atmosphere, and it contains high concentration of sulfur dioxide and other sulfides. Okay. And when these sulfur are introduced in the upper atmosphere, they combine with water vapor in the air to produce what we know as the sulfuric acid. And when the water falls as rain, the precipitation is acid, or what we know as acid rain. And it is noted that acid precipitation or acid rain destroyed life. Thousands of even lakes in Sweden, Norway no longer support fishes and other aquatic organisms in them. So it's quite devastating for this phenomenon. I would also look at the ozone layer. The ozone is only present in concentration about few part millions or less in the Earth's stratosphere. That's between 15 to 50 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. In 1980, the British environmentalists realized that above the Antarctic or Antarctica zones levels were falling drastically, creating a gap called ozone holes. These holes, not the permanent future, but rather one that becomes evident each year for a few months at onset of the spring. And it has been observed that every September from 1975 onward, the ozone holes has reappeared and layers of ozone thinner and the holes larger. See? So the thinning of this ozone layer is a matter of serious concern because the layer protects biological molecules, especially proteins and nucleic acids, from harmful ultraviolet rays. So the substances that are responsible for this, as we know, are the CFC, which is the chlorofluorocarbon. They have been manufactured for a long time. There are some countries that have really banned the use of this chemical. Well, it was invented in 1920, and it has been used in cooling system like the refrigerator, fire extinguisher, and aerosol. After much lobbying by scientists, it was now agreed in the 80s by environmentalists that a number of measures needs to be taken so as to reduce the use of this chemical or possibly phase it out by the year 2000. However, large amounts of these are still being manufactured and are still finding their way into the atmosphere. We have the carbon dioxide and global warming. Yes. Carbon dioxide and global warming. The Earth atmosphere gives it a warmer temperature of about 15 degrees centigrade at ground level that we know. So much of the incoming radiation from the sun is absorbed by the atmosphere and then radiated back into the Earth's surface. See? Carbon dioxide and water vapor are the gases in the atmosphere responsible for keeping the surface of the Earth relatively warm by trapping the heat radiating from the surface of the Earth. However, it is well known that each year humans are contributing to the greenhouse effect by releasing into the atmosphere huge amounts of carbon dioxide, methane, chlorofluorocarbon, nitrous oxides, and other gases. The most important of these gases in relation to the greenhouse effect is what we know as carbon dioxide. Roughly 7 times as much as carbon dioxide is locked up in the fossil fuel. Before widespread industrialization, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was approximately about 260 to 280 part per million. But since the extensive use of fossil fuel in order to operate industries, aircraft, vehicles, and the rest, the amounts of carbon dioxide released has increased rapidly. So a major proportion of carbon dioxide added to that also comes from the destruction and burning of trees and other vegetation, particularly those in the remaining tropical rainforest. So again, when we destroy the rainforest, there occurs a reduction in the amount of carbon dioxide fixed each year in photosynthesis, and leading to further increase of these gases in the atmosphere. So you can imagine, even in Nigeria, it has been noted, Nigeria also has its own contribution towards global warming. By looking at World Bank estimate, Nigeria has annually burned into the air 75% of the gas extracted from its well. Okay. So by estimates, the equivalent of 40% of African total natural gas consumption is flare in Nigeria. So if the climate becomes warm enough to melt the polar ice, sea level will rise by more than 150 meters. That's why we'll see floodings in places. Recently, we'll be seeing flooding in China and other countries in Europe. Germany also have their own fair share of these phenomena. So, the question we want to ask on class activity 1 is, mention any damage caused by acid rain. Mention any damage caused by acid rain. Give me you guys 2-3 minutes to see what you can do. All right, welcome back. We now want to move to other parts. Yeah, we also listed 3 other activity that man has done to influence the environment. We're looking at nuclear pollution, deforestation, and loss of biodiversity. When we say nuclear pollution, we're talking about nuclear energy. And this has been alternative to the use of coal, gas, and oil, because they are becoming very scarce, and the cost of locating them and extracting them is becoming more expensive. So humans have to look for alternatives so that they can look at other sources of energy. And that is why the nuclear energy is becoming a global brand. Most developed country, China, Japan, have developed nuclear power that's to generate electricity. It's sad to say that most of these nuclear power or energy that have been constructed has been very devastating. A case in hand is that of the Canopy nuclear power that has been in Ukraine. It blew up, and the explosion of these reactors, these 4 reactors, send so much heat to about 5-kilometer high. This carried tons of uranium dioxide, and other products to existing environment. It was one of the largest nuclear accidents that ever happened on Earth. It was recorded at about 100 megacuries of radioactivity that was released. This cloud spread the radioactivity in a band across Central Europe, from Scandinavia to Greece. And it's sad to say some 24,000 people received serious radiation doses, while 31 individuals died as a result of direct radiation poisoning. And sad to say, it was most of the firefighters who were trying to prevent the fire from spreading to other reactors. With the exposure of people outside the economic area isolation caused about 5,000 to 75,000 cancers deaths. You can imagine the development of this and the outcome it has had on human population. And another one is that the world is now paying for another such accidents to occur, like the ones in Japan. We knew, and we had, and we saw how devastating this was, the effect it had. Now, the next is the deforestation. As the English goes, we're talking about removal, cutting, unwarranted cutting of trees, especially the rainforest region, Brazil, Africa, Southeast Asia, and so on and so forth. And sad to say, more than half of the world population lives in these tropics. Here you have percentage increase in its population. So the use of firewood as a source of fuel has really affected our tropical forest. About 1.5 billion people worldwide depend on firewood as a major source of fuel. You can imagine 1.5 billion out of 7 billion. Local supplies are cut faster than the trees can even generate themselves. And the situation is quite also peculiar to Nigeria. So the controversial issues of the clearance of tropical rainforest in countries like Brazil and other ones for the creation of grassland for cats to accelerate the destruction of the forest, or for industries and residential homes. Recently, Brazil's been having an issue with the government, especially the Amazon forest, where you have so many biodiversities found in this region. And they've been mining and other activities that have been going on. And environmentalists have been standing out to voice their displeasure on these problems. I'll talk about loss of biodiversity. Because of the all human activities has drastically reduced the diverse species we have. And it's becoming a serious issue because the past there has been a loss of species which are well-known with organisms, including mammals, birds, and plants. And scientists have calculated that as much as 20% of the world's species may be lost in the next 30 years. Why? Because man is destroying the tropical rainforest under which they may be termed as development. Imagine, develop, cutting them. Loss could even affect many species of birds, plants, mammals, invertebrates, in that the man is killing species of at a rate that has not been approved for the past 65 years. That is why there is need to stop this trend, as we might be doing so at our own peril. On moral, ethical, and artistic ground, man has no right, yes, man has no right to drive to extinction his living companion in the universe. But it's because of greed. That's why we are saying this. Secondly, organisms are the only means of sustainability to man. So they are a source of food, medicine, clothing, and whatever you can think of. But then how do we solve the environmental problems? How do we solve the environmental problem? All environmental problems so far enumerated in this and the previous units are been created by man's or rapid human population. Okay. Yes. So the growth has created the following unavoidable and obvious problem that we have seen. Increase in the needs of energy, depletion of resources, growing level of pollution. And environmental scientists have considered this problem not to be insurmountable. So, however, require a combination of scientific investigation. It's as if it's not possible to solve this problem, but it needs a comprehensive, holistic approach in order to solve these minutes. And public actions need to be brought to bear effectively for solutions to be achieved. So solving environmental problem may require the following suggestions, steps to be undertaken. Assessment, risk assessment, public education. You have to expect is addressing any environmental problem in scientific analysis. So the gathering of information. Then you now use that results to analyze using tools and see what will be expected outcome. Okay. You now educate, there should be public awareness so that people will be very conversant with any choices they make regarding what they do. There should be public action through its elected officers, make a choice, selecting a course of action, and implementing it. There should be flow through of this action. As a flow through, there should be monitoring to see if that environmental problem has been solved, and more basically to evaluate and improve the initial evaluation and modeling of the problem. So with this, we're quite certain that these problems will be resolved. All right. So the next class activity 2 says, why is it important to sustain biodiversity? So I'll be giving you a minute or two to see what you can think of as regard the importance for us to sustain biodiversity. All right, thank you for listening. And all right, so I'm stopping sharing the video. It's quite an interesting class as we are rounding up this topic. Today we've seen clearly man's activity, the environment has never been positive, but rather negative, and all because man is greedy. So, summary, understand this. Also look at the nuclear aspect, what it has caused. Also look at deforestation. We also look at loss in the biodiversity. So And thank you for listening. Next will be summary or class revision of what we've been doing the past 7 weeks. So I'll be expecting to see you guys next week. Thank you. God bless.